January 16th, 2014, just after sunrise in the high desert of southern Colorado. A man stumbles out his front door, collapses on the sidewalk, and starts screaming for help. His face is swollen, his clothes are soaked through with his own waste, and blood is matted in his hair. His neighbor, Fari Trujillo, hears the yelling, looks out her window, and sees Ralph Candelario lying there. He's begging her to go check on his wife, Pam. She calls 911 right away. When paramedics get there, they find 48-year-old Pamela Candelario on the kitchen floor. Her head has been crushed. A bloody fireplace poker is lying right next to her. At first, it looks like a home invasion that went horribly wrong. But the moment investigators step inside the house, things start to feel off. The story Ralph Candelario is about to tell ends up being one of the strangest and saddest cases this small mountain town has ever dealt with. This is what happened to Ralph Candelario and the wife he said two strangers killed. Walsenburg, Colorado, population just over 3,000. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. People still leave their doors unlocked. A knock at 2:30 in the morning would wake up half the block. But sometime during the night of January 14th into the 15th, 2014, that peace got ripped apart. Ralph was 51, a local guy with family roots all over the area. He'd been married before to a woman named Dina Angelique Candelario. They had 2 sons. Then in August 2004, Dina disappeared from their home in Pueblo. She left a short goodbye note on the kitchen table. Ralph waited weeks before he reported her missing, saying he figured she'd run off with someone she met online. She was never seen again. Her case went cold until later events made police take another look. In 2009, Ralph married Pamela Palmer. Everyone called her Pam. She was 48 when she died, a mom to 2 daughters, Shannon and Kelsey, from a previous marriage. People who knew her said she was warm, kind, and still full of hope about the future. She and Ralph had actually met years earlier through their Jehovah's Witnesses congregation. Both of them were already in relationships at the time. Pam was married, Ralph was engaged, but they started seeing each other anyway while they were chaperoning youth events at the Kingdom Hall. When the church elders found out, they got in trouble. Eventually, both left their spouses and married each other. The marriage that started in scandal never really settled down. By early 2014, they were living in a small house on West 3rd Street in Walsenburg. Ralph bought and sold antiques. They owned some property out in Oregon and were planning a long vacation there. Pam had dealt with alcohol problems in the past, according to her daughters, and the marriage was under a lot of strain. Still, Ralph would later say they were happy and looking forward to a fresh start. On the night of January 14th, they had a simple dinner, chicken and rice, and each had half a glass of red wine. They watched Frasier, then Star Trek Voyager, then White Collar. Pam took a bath around 9. Ralph took one after her at 9:30. They went to bed around 10:30. It was a completely normal Tuesday night, until it wasn't. According to Ralph, he woke up around 2:30 a.m. on the 15th and noticed a light downstairs was off. He went to check it out. He says someone hit him from behind, then again on the side of the head. He caught a glimpse of 2 Hispanic men, one tall with yellow glasses, short curly hair, a wide nose, big lips, and marks on his face. The other guy shorter. They were speaking Spanish. They had little LED lights on their gloves. He told police the 2 men held him and Pam hostage for almost 14 hours. They wanted money. Ralph said he went out to the garage and got them $200 from a hiding spot. That's where he noticed the glass in the back door had been broken. The men kicked him, threatened him with a gun that just clicked when they pulled the trigger, and laughed while he lost control of his bladder and bowels. At one point they were on the phone talking about a car problem. He heard the word "caro." Ralph said he saw Pam on the kitchen floor, bleeding from her face, nose, and mouth. She was convulsing. She squeezed his hand once, and then she stopped breathing. He claimed the men finally left at sunrise on the 16th. Only then did he drag himself outside, collapse on the sidewalk, and start yelling for help. Neighbors said he looked absolutely terrified. Paramedics found him disoriented, concussed, and smelling strongly of feces. Pam was already gone. At first, people believed him. One neighbor slept with a gun under his pillow that night, Scared the killers were still around, the local police and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation started a manhunt, but the story quickly started to fall apart. Investigators walked into a crime scene that didn't make sense. Pam had died from massive blunt force trauma to the head. The coroner matched the injuries exactly to a fireplace poker that came from inside the house, not something strangers would have brought with them. The blood patterns showed a fast, violent attack, not a 14-hour standoff. A small drop of Pam's blood turned up on one of two rugs that had been put in the washing machine and then hung up to dry inside the house. An odd thing to do in the middle of a home invasion. Upstairs, a suitcase packed with women's clothes was sitting outside the bedroom. DNA under one of Pam's fingernails matched a male relative from the Candelario family, possibly Ralph, though it wasn't a full match. Ralph himself had a concussion, a swollen face, and a cut on his nose. But the doctors noted that the strong smell and dried waste on him didn't really line up with the timeline he gave. CBI agents questioned Ralph for hours. He took a polygraph and later said they pushed him hard with the idea that it had started as a drunken argument that got out of hand. He stuck to his story. He even wrote a long, detailed letter to the local newspaper, the Huerfano World Journal, describing the two intruders and insisting he and Pam were happy and excited about their trip to Oregon. The more the evidence was examined, though, the clearer it became that the scene looked staged. The glass in the back door had been broken from the inside, not forced from outside. There were no fingerprints or DNA from any unknown people. The poker, the murder weapon, belonged in the living room. Ralph's story had little contradictions that kept growing every time he told it. Some details felt too polished, too rehearsed. The timeline simply didn't match what the forensics showed. On October 7, 2014, Ralph was arrested in Humboldt County, California. He was charged with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Prosecutors said the motive was as old and as sad as it gets. Ralph and Pam's marriage had started as an affair that their Jehovah's Witness congregation condemned. Divorce in that faith often means you get disfellowshipped, completely cut off by everyone you know. People close to the case said Ralph was terrified of that. Pam, according to the prosecution, was struggling and wanted out of the marriage. To Ralph, they argued, killing her became the only way to end things without losing his place in the faith and the community. At trial, they showed a life-size photo of the fireplace poker next to Pam's autopsy pictures. The packed suitcase, the washed rugs, the blood evidence, everything was laid out as proof that the scene had been cleaned up and arranged. Ralph's detailed descriptions of the two men fell apart under cross-examination. His letter to the newspaper was read out loud. Prosecutors called it self-serving and full of things that didn't match the physical evidence. Ralph never changed his story. "I've maintained I'm innocent, from beginning to end," he told the court. On March 9, 2016, a jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Sentencing was set for March 15th. 1 hour before the hearing, Ralph tried to kill himself in his jail cell by slashing his wrists and throat with a disposable razor. He survived. The hearing was pushed back a day. On March 16, Ralph showed up in court looking rough, bandaged, wearing a yellow jail jumpsuit. Judge Claude Appel called the murder reprehensible, brutal, and deliberate. He said Ralph had lied to law enforcement, to his own family, and to the whole community. Pam's oldest daughter, Shannon, spoke through tears. She said her mom had dreams she would never get to live out, and that the family now had to carry her memory while grieving a future that had been taken away. Ralph was sentenced to life in prison without parole, plus 18 months for tampering with evidence. The sentences ran together. He was taken back into custody immediately. Pamela Candelario was buried by her daughters, who still talk about how warm she was and the life she should have had. Her death shook her family and the small town that had trusted Ralph's story in those first scary hours. Ralph Candelario is still in prison, serving that life sentence. He continues to say he's innocent and has filed appeals. After his conviction, police in Pueblo quietly reopened the case of his first wife, Dina Angelique Candelario. She was 36 when she walked out of her home in 2004 with nothing but a goodbye note. She has never been found. Pueblo police have never officially named Ralph a suspect, but the timing and the pattern have left her family and investigators with some very hard questions that may never get answered. If you have any information about Dina Candelario's disappearance, please contact the Pueblo Police Department.